Well, as Lena said, me and Elena has been working together since 2010, and she would very much have liked to be here, of course. She also traveled to Copenhagen, but had to go back. So she's very sorry for that. And I will talk about the project that I have together with Helena. And since this was a kind of a last-minute thing to talk to you, this is actually, I will now invite you into the process and sometimes the messiness of research. So I take you on this journey towards through this project. We have worked on it for 2 years. So that's what I will do. So if you want to contact me like in January, then you have to search for me in Dalarna instead. That's just one thing I want to mention. So we call this project the Mathematics is Mine project. And the I in the mine expression is the inclusion. And Helena has been doing work on inclusion ever since she finished or did her thesis work. And I'm very much invested into equity. So, and we have this overlap, as you can imagine. And we have also both worked closely with teachers all the time and in classrooms. So how to both find out what they are doing already, what are the challenges, the frictions, the opportunities in the classrooms to help teachers or help to understand how they can help children to feel that the mathematics is mine, all children. Every child. So that's a big challenge. And when we started this project, we were like talking about it, and we also said that we really don't know if this is possible to do. So we don't know, but we really want it to be possible. We have been working, this is like the final product right now. It's not final, it is what we have right now. This is I will just walk you through how we ended up here. So this is a work material for schools, and we have developed it together with 2 schools. There are 7 teachers on each school, and they have about 150 students together on each school. The schools are very different from each other. In the presentation, I will talk about them as the South School. That's Helena's school, so she lives down in the south of Sweden, and the North School. So it's a school somewhere up north. And they are quite different as well. So there's a big variety of classrooms and students in these 2 schools. This final product, as you can see, it explains a bit about it doesn't want to do that, but I can tell you. It says something about the background to this model that we have developed, which you can see it's the purple square up there. We explain on what principle it builds on and how it can be used. Then we have developed 2 fictive but real cases of 2 students in the 2nd and 3rd grade. So they are like 8 and 9-year-olds, and they struggle with mathematics in different ways. And we found out that this was actually the best way to work with the teachers throughout the project, to talk about moments of equity and inclusion, and I will explain why. And to that, there is also a package of reflection, questions for reflection, on both the individual level, the group level, and the organizational level for teachers to use. So we will now go back to the 2 schools that we have worked with, and talk about it again, and for them to try it out. They have already been presented with an earlier version of this, building on their own work, and there's some key concepts. But after that, we will go to another municipality and also do this with all the teachers that wish to do it in that municipality. And I just want to say something about why we are doing this as well. So we understand inclusion and equity as teaching that in the mathematics classroom. It's teaching that contributes to students' empowerment and their ability and agency to learn, and through striving for every student's opportunity to participate. And to participate is not only to be with the others, it's also have meaningful participation. And of course, you will also then start to think about the students. What about them? Because we only work with the teachers right now, but that is what we hope to do after this is a kind of finished. So we have some visions for mathematics education and classrooms as well, and that is that we will create enabling rather than disabling mathematics classroom for a broader range of learners, because we know that, well, you have a fairly big group of students, it really doesn't matter that much, what you give them. They will work, they will develop, and they will, they will do mathematics, and they will learn. We are people, human beings, so we learn. But then we have some who will struggle more, or who need more challenges, and they might need something else as well. So we also know that children with disabilities, in all the big pool of research on equity, very often it's then talked about maybe gender, language, but children with disabilities are kind of forgotten. Maybe it's harder to do research with these children. This is the situation in Sweden connected to mathematics about quality and equity and inclusion. So we still have quite many children or students, 15-year-olds, that cannot enter the gymnasium programs because of a lacking grade in mathematics. This was a few years ago. But this is how the pattern have looked like many years. And I've interviewed these 15-year-olds in the 9th grade, just as they did their choices to the gymnasium and after the national assessment in mathematics. And that is quite strong stories they tell. And they look at their upbringing in the mathematical classrooms, they look at their peers who cannot follow them and join them to the gymnasium. So this is actually really about inclusion. And we can see that it matters what gender you have, where you're born, what language you speak, and also disability. And this has been the case for many years. Yeah. So this is just to show you that we know this. We have more research coming now, talking about how children are, the situation, how are the children in Sweden. They are more stressed out than earlier, so we have, this is from 2018, and it's Folkhälsomyndigheten. Part of my slides are in Swedish, as you see, I haven't had time to translate. But it says that they feel they have psychosomatical experiences more than once a week the last 6 months. And it's clearly, you can see here how it matters, the socioeconomical background for the child. So we have research coming from more of the other areas than education as well, but they have looked at how school children are. And we need to do something. And we also know that we talk about achievement a lot in relation to this, and that is how we often look at equity. And then we can see that there's a lack of equity in the school system, and between schools there are a big difference. What to do about that, we don't know. So when we talk about achievement a lot, we also know that we, in a way, render strengths invisible for certain groups of students, and it actually enhances stereotype understanding. So this is a challenge. And me and Helena then wants to talk about something else than achievement and results, although that is, of course, what we wish for the students to, in a way, have to develop and to reach further, all of them. But we want to look at inclusion and equity. And we do that by using Einsko, and that is, I think it's more into the inclusive education research, right? So I don't know if you've heard about him, but he talks about inclusion and equity as principles in school systems. And they then, what we see in how school is administrated, how we work with school development in mathematics, for example, and how the community is involved, that is like governed by these principles. They are not always outspoken or written down in policy documents even. Like in Sweden, we don't have inclusion in the governing documents per se, so what we try to do is to use evidence. So that's what we work with the schools in order to work with school development in mathematics in a way. But we also understand that we need to, the next step, something we need to do, is to involve the principals a lot more. And also we would like for policymakers even to take a look at this model and think about decisions they make. So we try to target, we are in the classroom with the teachers, but we have this very big vision. Maybe it's silly to have big visions, but it is about the societal level as well. And to have a fair school system where children are well. And then we have this inclusive inquiry approach, that's also Einsko, which means that teachers kind of explore and investigate their own teaching and tries to figure out or pay attention to when is inclusion working, when is equity happening, why, or when is it not. So that is what we worked with them. This is the aim to the project that we have. We want to work with identifying these principles. That is, for us as researchers, what we try to figure out in a way, and to then put them into work, and to maybe even change them in a way. But what will be seen for the teachers is this model of teaching that we hope will work in a diversity of classroom. And we are focusing the early ages in the school. Equity and inclusion for us then, this is something we wrote a while ago, but we think that it's important that inclusion and equity must reach far beyond standards and achievements. It rather concerns a teaching which allows students to do the maths far beyond the calculating of their own worth or worthlessness. So that is in a way what happens in mathematics with some of the children that struggle. They get proof all the time just by working with friends sometimes that, okay, I'm not as good as he or she, and what does that imply? We also say and really emphasize that this is something happen in a moment. It's something lived, something experienced. It can be quite quickly, like just passed by, and the teacher in the situation just have to figure out something, decide something really quickly, and that might be something the child remembers for a long time. So how do we research this? It sounds impossible, right? But we found that it wasn't impossible. It actually worked. But for example, one of these moments was the teachers talked about these moments as we met in workshops. And for example, and in the beginning they were very polite, and I still know this teacher as well. I've been working with them since 2010 actually, one of the schools. So you can imagine they were quite safe and comfortable, but still, this is a really important thing for them. They want to be able to include all the students and to that they can enjoy mathematics. And so in the beginning they gave these stories of just only the success stories in a way. And that's not a problem. And that's fantastic. We can also learn from the principles like that. But we also had to kind of dig into the challenges, because something is apparently not working on a system level. So when is it hard and what is happening? So one of these moments was a teacher telling us how some of the children were working with a task in mathematics, figuring a problem out. And one of the other children, she had adaptations. She had to work on her own a lot because she had a hard time to interact with other children. So she was on the side, working on her own. But apparently she wanted to be more included and participate. And what she did was that she just went over there and sat down in the middle of it, where the material was. It makes sense. And then she was really included, but at the same time, all the other children, they only felt that she destroyed their work. And that is kind of a typical thing that can happen in a classroom. It's quite quick, and the teacher won't know why this happened and what the children experience. But then she would like for her to, of course, be able to engage this young girl then, to engage with the problem. So then, after a while, when we had a few workshops, we were able to talk more about those kinds of situations. And that was really rewarding. So I will just show you that these are the 3 questions that we had all the time in every workshop. In what way could inclusion and equity be seen in your teaching? And they have also been kind of observing this throughout the semester. We met them in the beginning of the semester and in the end. But also we had to change the workshops for different reasons and adapt it to what was going on and what they gave us. So that is the first question. This is the inquiry approach. In what way could inclusion and equity be seen? What have we learned about difference in the classroom from that? And what did we do? What did we do? And that was a question we posed to them and them to each other as well. Like, why did you do that? But when you did that, what happened? What would you have liked to have done instead? So this is just the workshops. We're down here now. So we are getting back to them with the model. The first workshop was actually they answered questions. We asked them to note down moments of inclusion and equity. So we put that together. This is the South School. So this is just work from the workshop. We presented them to their own kind of narratives. And together, with the teachers, we tried to figure out what is inclusion, what is equity. There's no right or wrong answer here. And the same for the North School. So this is what we did. And we could see differences already. The teachers started to reflect on the differences that in one of the schools, students' activity was quite much emphasized, that they had the possibility to engage, to choose, to act. And in the other school, they were really working hard with language issues and adaptations, and had another approach. In the second workshop, we had then, we taped them, and we collected everything and put together, just for triggering the thoughts about what inclusion and equity could be, what they said about it the last time, and what they learned from difference and how they changed. So we just started with that one. But we also composed, since they were quite polite, the first workshop in a way, and they also, we wanted them to think deeper. So we put together these fictional cases that we put together from their own stories. So they have, this is Isaac, so it has elements from what the teachers then said. Yeah, so it's about that, and it's about competition and multiplication. And we also have a girl there. Third workshop, we continued we were like, no, yeah, it's really interesting. We really started to see things, and they gave really good examples of inclusion and equity, also frustrations for the teachers. So, well, is it the same thing? Or is it, what is what? So then we tried to do the Venn diagram with them on both schools. And now we didn't have to give them like fictional cases. They were totally comfortable also sharing all kinds of stories. So they did that, as you see. It made us understand that sometimes something is inclusion, another time in another context, the same thing would be equity. So this is not as clean as we would wish for it to be, and as we often present it in research. Yeah. And what was really clear was that ethical dilemmas and professional judgment was key in this, like the teacher's professional judgment and possibilities to make good decisions. Yeah, then we presented it, you see, this is what we did all the time. I just want to go to the actually last slide. This is what we then detected, and in the workshop actually found out with the teachers. Well, it's more like a Möbius band. So you start on the inclusion side, and suddenly you are on the equity side. We're playing with this idea right now, just to try to explain how they are connected. And this is finally the model, and I just want to say something about it really quickly, because the teachers, as you see, there are inclusion, equity, ethical dilemmas, and professional judgment. And what we could do with the help of this model was to start in a dilemma. Maybe the problem was that we had values clashing in the classroom. That's the ethical dilemma. What does it? Why is that? Well, then they could see that it's like a map, more of a map than something you read like this. So then they went over there, and they could see that our opportunities to act was limited, and that is actually connected to equity, and it depends on how the school is governed and the resources. So it's quite helpful. It was quite helpful to do this exercise with them, and also quite strong experience actually. So we had to stop the taping, both of us, although we were at different cities, because they also put a lot. When they talk about inclusion, it's like they didn't say that it's because of the principal or because of the governing system. They only saw their own responsibility and their own failure, and that is quite hard. It's only me as a teacher, I should have done better. But when we talked about equity, it was easier for the teachers to talk about the resources, adaptations, the support teacher, and so on. And this is actually not fair to the teachers. So we need to keep digging and to keep figuring out how these parts are related. And also we want to do this with the principals. We are convinced that we need to do this more, and with also with the principals. Yeah, so this is, work in progress, as I said. Thank you.